Remix or reimagining? It's a question that's come up in my mind many times as, the reissue market for classic and sometimes not so classic albums has been churning along. And what I've noticed, and the reason for my remix versus reimagining comment, is when is a reissue of an album simply something to make some improvements on it? Maybe more modern technology can offer some benefits to what the original recording engineers had available to them. But in many cases, what I'm finding is that we're actually changing the character and changing some of these albums so significantly that in many cases, cuts that known for many decades in some cases, sound foreign. They sound totally new. Now, what sparked this thought is that there's been recently a couple of really big reissues. One, Pink Floyd's Animals, a new mix by their longtime recording engineer James Guthrie, and the Beatles' Revolver with a deluxe box set by Giles Martin, son of George Martin, considered by many the fifth Beatle because he brought many ideas and techniques in recording, classical music, etc., that really changed their sound in ways that it probably would not have without him. In both cases, those new remixes, those new editions, those reissues of those albums that I've been listening to, for decades. Some of them, Animals maybe, sounds fairly similar to the original recording, and I would classify that as a remix. But when I listen to something like the Revolver reimagining, and I use that term for a reason, that Giles Martin has done, it's different enough in terms of bringing up some instruments, bringing down the vocals in some areas, changing the vocal mix. Is Paul's voice in this segment or this section louder than John's, and it was the other way around originally? I'm not sure. I'm on the fence about this, and the reason I'm making this video is I want your comments and what your thoughts and if you've experienced any of these albums or any others where something has changed so fundamentally in what you know that you start questioning, like I have. Is this tampering or is this messing with a piece of art? Now, I know in many cases, in these two examples, for sure, any surviving members of these groups had their input. Somebody doesn't just go off and do a remix and issue it. So I know that there were sign-offs, but in the case of the Beatles, two of them are no longer with us. So there was no input there. What would they have said? Would they have blessed the new mix of Revolver? It's something, like I said, I'm struggling with a bit because, yes, it's different. Some may say that in some areas it's better, it's clearer, you're allowed to hear more things in the mix. But maybe that's the way that it was intended in the first place. So it's a confusing thing. Like I said, I'm on the fence about it. Not going to say one way or the other that, I completely am against the idea of a reimagining of a classic album, but I'd love to know your thoughts. One big one that I was thinking about was that there was a edition of the Beatles' Let It Be about 10 or 15 years ago called Let It Be Naked, where they pulled all of the Ron Spector, symphonic backgrounds, big backgrounds, whatever, out of that album and left it more as a, what might have been a more pure Beatles-focused version of it. And it is totally different. If you've not heard that, to me, that's an example of a total reimagining. And again, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just, is it right? Should we call it something else? In the case of that Let It Be Naked, they did give it a different name. So maybe that's more acceptable than just bringing onto the market, a copy of Revolver that doesn't sound like the Revolver that I know and love. So please leave your comments. I would love to hear what you think. I've been hashing this out with some other friends and music fans, and it's pretty divided. So I'd love to know what you think, and thank you as always for watching.